But yeah, so tell me, you want to learn more about a buy box. What market are you looking at? Do you have anything currently? Like, tell me a little bit more about yourself.
Perfect. Yes. So I started kind of watching one rental at a time videos about a month and a half ago. And I have some money saved up. I'm looking in Bend, Oregon is where I'm interested in buying. So out of state, I'm currently located in San Francisco, California. Um, but I'm also open to other areas. I've been like entertaining everything. And I think that is my issue, right? I'm like,
Mhm.
I'll
Mhm.
buy a sixplex in like, I don't know, in Fresno, I mean, or
Yeah.
wherever, or like, then I started looking in Maine and then because my family's from New Hampshire. And then I
Okay.
started looking in Charlotte because my sister lives there. And I just quickly got very distracted.
Right. Right.
Um,
Why
and
Bend, Oregon?
center it. Sorry, Bend,
Why?
Oregon.
Yeah. Why Bend?
It's beautiful. I honestly, I would love to live there. That's really why, is because ultimately I would love to actually live there, even though
Mm,
I'm not ready to in the next year or two, but I'm ready
mm.
to buy in the next year or two.
Okay. What do you do for work?
I work in recruiting, executive recruiting.
For like a tech firm or something?
So we are a recruiting firm itself. So we work with multiple clients
Oh,
and
okay.
we'll hire, depending, I won't say the name, but depending on the clients,
Right.
then we'll hire a CEO or a CFO for them, etc. So lots
Okay.
of clients, but I can work remotely. So
That's always nice.
yeah, I know exactly. So I could move, but not ready to quite yet.
Mm. Okay. And then so you're gonna have you ever gone and gotten qualified for a loan of any type for any type of like okay, so do you know what you're qualified for?
Yes, I'm qualified for 600 or up to 700, they said.
Nice, nice. That's great. That's great. Now, did you get qualified saying you were going to be an owner occupied or just as an investment property?
As owner occupied
Okay.
for
Okay,
now.
that's good to know.
Yeah.
So when you do an owner occupied loan, if you're going to do like a house hack, like I do in my duplex here, you will have to put down less money, but you do have to live in the property, right?
Right.
So if you're looking at investing out of state and you don't want to move, then you'll have to put down a minimum of 20% of whatever whatever you end up buying. So keep
Yeah.
that in mind. Because if you go to an expensive market, like I don't know what Bend, Oregon is, but I assume it's probably three, four, $500,000 properties.
Yeah.
20% of that plus closing costs can be a little bit of money, which is why I was like, I don't want to invest in Washington with these 20% downs. I'll go to the Midwest where it's cheaper. And that's why I have a lot of stuff in the Midwest.
Right. Yeah. Which is now what I'm also entertaining. I'm like,
Okay.
okay, well, where could that work?
Right.
I'm open to so much, which I think is the
Mhm.
edge. That's the
Right.
problem, right?
Yes.
I think, and I messaged you this question, but just to kind of restate it, of my understanding as I started listening to all the videos, and I should tell you, I did drive up to Bend, Oregon last weekend, not yesterday, but last weekend before that, and 8 hours up, 8 hours back, and about a full 8 hours of that, I was just listening, cycling through as many videos of yours
There
as
you
I
go. Of
could.
mine? Oh, I
Yeah,
thought you were going to say
yeah,
Zubers. Okay.
absolutely.
Well, now
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel so
sure.
flattered.
But yeah. And it just trying to like again absorb as much as I can.
Right.
And I think where I had initially landed when I first reached out to you was okay, buy box, that's what's going to direct me. That's what's going to tell me, do I want a 2 bedroom? Do I want a 3 bedroom? Do I want a 4 bedroom? And I realized that's actually not the case.
Mm.
The goal of the tool of a buy box is to compare, for example, 1,300 foot 2 bedrooms in X zip code, right?
Mm.
It's to compare those really to find what's a good deal, what's a great deal, because that's all.
Right. Right.
But what are the steps between
Mm.
today and then starting to type into my buy box, into my spreadsheet? And there's steps between now and then that I feel like I need to start putting things pen to paper, but I don't know
Mm.
what those look like.
Sure. So, in order to get to the points where you can even declare the buy box, the first thing you're going to have to do is pick a market. Right? You have to like decide where you want to invest. Now, you've already touched on a few different things that were good. You said you had looked at Maine because your family's from New Hampshire. And then you said your sister lives in South
Charlotte,
Carolina. North Carolina?
North Carolina. Mm-hmm.
Okay, North Carolina. And so, having a market that you already have ties to is always a good thing, because if you're not going to live there, having somebody that you know and trust in the area who can swing by the property, check and make sure tenants aren't putting cars up on cinder blocks, that type of stuff, like that's always beneficial. It's a good thing to have, because your property managers can lie to you as much as you hope that they don't. They could. You could have a bad one. The next important thing to consider is, before you ever declare a market, forget about the returns, all that stuff. You want to like have an established team of people that you can trust, because you don't want a property manager who lies to you. So how I picked Gary, Indiana, if you've watched my videos, my mentor, Mark, he did the hard work of kind of building a team in that area and getting started in that area.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to piggyback off of his success. So if you like South or North Carolina, or if you like Maine or the New Hampshire area, my advice to everybody who I tell, well, you need to start networking with people there, is you need to join the local Facebook groups. There will be, like there's in Indiana, Northwest Indiana Investor Facebook group, Indiana Out of State Investors Facebook group, and you join those Facebook groups and start reading through the posts, reading through the comments, and reaching out to people, making connections, asking questions, because you never know who you're going to run into, but you do know they are other investors. There could be good ones, bad ones, people are trying to rip you off, people who aren't. But that's the best way to start reaching out to people. The next thing you should do, if you pick a market, Maine, New Hampshire, or North Carolina, whichever city you choose, go on YouTube and type in real estate investing for Maine, real estate investing for, I don't even know a single city in Maine. Isn't there a Portland in Maine too?
Portland. There's a Portland, Maine.
There we go. We're good. I got
Nice.
one of them. But yeah, so Maine, Portland, or Portland, Maine, real estate investors, and start watching Instagram Reels, TikTok, YouTube, because there's small time creators like me that aren't super popular, that don't have a bunch of followers, who have time to sit down and have a conversation with somebody, and will take the time to respond to your comment on their video, or have a 30-minute Zoom conversation, and you'll be able to say, who do you use as a property manager? Who do you recommend? At the same time, in the Facebook group, I'm looking at buying a property here. Who do you guys recommend as a property manager? You'll probably get 3 or 4 suggestions, but as you start to see the same person be recommended, and maybe the same people be not recommended, well, then you can build your list of recommended realtors, recommended contractors, recommended property managers. Once you have that list, that's so much better than just going to Google and saying property manager Maine, then you start calling and you start to build your network. Once you have that property manager and that real estate agent lined up, and you have a working relationship, maybe a small friendship with some of the other people in that Facebook group, to the point where you can say, 3 months later, after you've now declared a buy box in that market, I'm looking at this 3-bed, 1-bath house that costs this much, will rent for this much. Can anybody give me their advice? Do you think this sounds like a good deal? Or you can ask those people, and then hopefully that other investor, those other people you've made friends with, now who have your best interest at heart, they're not trying to sell you anything, will sit down and say, it seems a little pricey, or that's a good deal, and then you can get guided through the process of purchasing your first rental property. The next thing I would recommend for the first one, for your buy box, I would not be looking at any type of remodel strategies. I would want to buy it fully remodeled, ready to put a tenant in day one. You don't want to have to manage a project from afar.
Yeah, especially with that is in no way my background.
Right.
I can hammer a nail into the wall, but that's about the extent of my knowledge there. So,
that's better than most.
Personally, but thank you. So how did you determine between 2-bedroom versus 3-bedroom, 3-bedroom versus 4-bedroom? Do they value basements in that particular market over another one,
right,
et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. So oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, just what type of research did you do for that, like, nitty-gritty difference between them? Yeah.
So that is kind of the point where you do start to get into the buy box a little bit. So the buy box, it's going to be very hard to have a buy box that incorporates every single different type of property, but you can compare 2 beds and 3 beds pretty quickly. So if I was you, I would go on Craigslist and be like, okay, what is an average, look up 10 or 15 3-bed, 1-baths. They all seem to be renting for between $900 to $1,100. Okay, $900 to $1,100 is an average 3-bed. What do the 2 beds rent for? They're between like $700 and $900. Okay, what's a 1-bed rent for? $500. All right, now what are the prices? Well, my 1-bed, 1-baths are like 50 grand. My 2-bed, 1-baths are 60 grand. And my 3-bed, 1-baths can be 60 grand all the way up to like 80 grand. So they rent for way more, but they're not that much more expensive. So then when you actually run your numbers to figure out your cash on cash return and your cash flow, you're going to find out that the 3 beds do seem to have the best cash flow. The other things that you want to take into consideration is 1 bed, 1 bath. How long are those tenants going to stay there? You know, I mean, it could be a while, could just be a little old lady lives by herself or some single dude, you know, but most likely they're like younger kids, younger people, younger couples who want to turn over and move into a better unit. Turnover is what's going to kill your cash flow. So ideally, you're going to get them into a minimum of a 2 bed. And I like 3 bed, 1 bath because most of my tenants have been with me since I put them in there. So at this point, 2-3 years. The folks that I've had next door, the only reason I've ever had tenant turnover in this duplex is because twice, one time a woman got married, the next time a dude got married. And they're like, oh, well, we're moving out because we're just moving. I'm like, well, fair enough. You just, you know, you lose some sometimes.
Congratulations. You can't do
Yeah.
it. Can't help that.
Yeah. So personally, I would recommend that you shouldn't look at 1 bed, 1 bath. Yeah, there's people who do it really well if they're doing Airbnbs or if they're in a college town. I don't think you want to be involved that much. I think and then on the flip side, 5 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms, they're so big that a lot of the time, folks who can afford that extra amount of rent can also just afford to buy a house. And so you might end up with turnover there. So, or you end up with let's get 5 roommates in 1 4-bed, which can work, but it can also be a lot, you know, somebody breaks up, you know, and then the friends can't afford it and it's a mess. So it can work, but I think that the 3 bed or the 2 bedroom with like a finished basement or a finished attic, so that the parents can be like, it's kind of like a 3 bedroom. We don't care if our kids don't have a closet, throw them upstairs. They'll be fine. You can end up getting that highest amount of rent with the lowest rate, like risk of turnover. So, and that seems to be the same in most markets, like not just Gary, not just Seattle. That's kind of what it seems to be like in most markets. It's sort of that sweet spot. So it's a good spot to start. And if you can find, if you pick a market and you do the networking and you meet with the folks, if you can find cash flowing deals at the 3 bed, 1 bath and the 2 bed plus 1 baths, then that's a good area to just start comparing and contrasting deals and following the market, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say, I think the other, so I think I've had I think I've had a number of hangups. I'm taking notes too.
Sure.
I've had a number of hangups along the way. One of them is I want to be the expert on everything before I dip my toe in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And
you're a perfectionist, probably.
Oh, how did you know? Yes, I am. I mean, I think about, I started riding a motorcycle, and before I got on it, I started watching every YouTube video about how the transmission worked. Did that make me a better rider? No, it didn't. Ultimately, maybe eventually it could have impacted it, but no. But it's like, I want to know every acronym. I want to know what CPI and like every aspect of how does investing work. And I mean, again, those tools, yes, they're important. You should be knowledgeable, but it then ultimately holds me back, right? Mm-hmm. So there's that part. But that leads me into, I couldn't even get started on my buy box because I was like, well, yeah, I don't know what average rents are. Mm-hmm. You need to talk through how to like look at that. So now that makes sense. I don't know what property management costs are. Mm-hmm. I don't know what insurance costs, right? And mm-hmm. so all of these unknowns across, honestly, getting started almost every field mm-hmm. on the buy box, it's just so intimidating. Right. But I think as you've talked, I think that's where your network comes in.
Yeah, the people who are successfully investing in those markets already will have a lot of the answers. Like I can answer every question you just had about Gary, Indiana, and Gary, Indiana only. I can't answer it about North Carolina or Maine or New Hampshire or anywhere else. But that's why you need to find somebody like me or like Michael Zuber who's there, who has the time to chat. They're like I found with my mentor Mark or something, because they'll be able to start pointing you as to what insurance costs. You know, property management seems to be very similar across most of the country. It's like 10 to 12%, almost always 10 to 12%. Half the first month's lease will go to the property manager, or maybe the whole first month's lease will go to the property manager when they place the tenant. That type of stuff. But what it costs to do an eviction varies greatly. Depending on where you are, and the time frame varies greatly. You know, my recommendation to everybody, and I don't know what your political affiliation is, and I don't care what it is, but there are states where they like landlords and they will give you just a fair shake. If people don't pay, you can get them out in a few months. And then there's states like in LA County where the eviction moratorium, even though the Supreme Court said it was unconstitutional, still exists to this day. And you can't evict somebody. I don't want to own property there. So I don't know what Maine, Portland, Maine is like. I don't know what North Carolina is like, but you might want to take those things into consideration.
Okay. Okay.
Because
Yeah.
God forbid you have to do an eviction. That's the worst thing, but
Yeah.
you don't want it to take a year or more.
Right. Well, like you said, I mean, turnover is just loss of money, or in that case, eviction of just straight up not getting paid, obviously equals
Right.
no cash in the bank.
Yeah, that's not a fun scenario either. So,
Yeah.
let me see. There was something else that was on my mind I was going to tell you. It really does come down to like the team is more important than the numbers on the paper. So, you know, if you're looking at a couple of different markets and you have really good confidence and trust in some of the investors you've chatted with and who they're recommending for property managers in one market versus another, that's the one that I would go with. The real biggest factor that'll probably hold you back is the barrier to entry in terms of price. Like
Right.
you probably invest in California if you could afford to put 20% down on an $800,000 house, you know, maybe you would, but that's a lot of money. So, and I don't know what prices are like in North Carolina or Maine, but it's probably more affordable. So that even may direct you, you know, if you just straight up can't afford to invest in one of these markets, well, then you just can't afford to.
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that is, I mean, honestly, there's a part of me that I'm like, maybe I should just wait and save up more for the down payment. I have a tidy little sum. More than just a tidy little sum. I mean, it's a decent amount, but when I think of it in the context of California, it's nothing.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
What is your living like circumstances right now? Are you in an apartment or living with family? Apartment?
In an apartment, living with my boyfriend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is he going to be good with the investing thing too? That's the other thing that a lot of people there's conflict with. But usually it's men can't get their girlfriends on board.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those out there.
They're like, hold on a second. Yeah, no, totally. He's doing his own thing already as well. And investing and kind of, which is, I think, what even triggered the thought process of like, maybe I should talk to somebody about my own plans. And then I talked to a real estate agent in Bend, and they were like, yeah, like, absolutely, you're ready to at least kind of start looking and seeing what could be options for you. So yeah, I think it really is going from the like knowing nothing to just like do something, right? Of just put something on paper, start. And I've literally spent probably even at this point, 6 to 8 weeks, just listening and absorbing and trying to understand. And I'm at the point of, okay, like I have enough knowledge to get started, and I still haven't put anything into a spreadsheet. So I need to start. I need to do the work.
There's only like 2 things that you cannot shortcut. And one of them is networking. You have to make the phone calls. You have to have the conversation. And the other one is gaining the knowledge on the market in terms of like the prices and everything. Yeah, there's a whole lot of different websites that'll give you well, here's our moving average and this type of thing. But until you've actually spent 3 months looking every day at your specific buy box so that you can really understand what just this specific property type's doing. Like, yeah, you can look at the averages and stuff, but they can be wrong. They can be off. Numbers can be, Realtor and Zillow have a propensity for screwing up their numbers and their estimates and things like that. So you got to do that yourself. So if I said first steps for you would be, you have to start trying as hard as you can to declare one market. And the way you're going to do that is the couple that you've mentioned already. I assume you've checked whether or not they're within your price range. And I assume they're within your price range. Okay. So the couple that you've looked at, go look up YouTube videos and Instagram videos for those markets. Join Facebook groups for those markets. Start trying to talk to people and ask questions and read through the 300 posts that date back 5 years on these things. Look at the comments, look at the questions. The same questions get asked every 2 months. Who do you recommend as a property manager? Go see who's been recommended for the last 3 years straight. Then from there, call those property managers. You want to call at least 5 of them. Find 20 real estate agents that are recommended. Call all 20 of them because you want 2 or 3. I just did an out-of-state investing deep dive with Zuber and another guy, Brian Adamson, like a week ago. Did you watch that one?
I sure did. Watch that
Good.
this weekend. Yeah.
Good. He said call 30 people, call 30 agents.
Yeah.
I was like, that's brilliant. I didn't never thought of it. I called like 10, but nice. Call a bunch because you want a couple. And you know, even though you may call number one and they be friendly and all this stuff, but you'd be surprised when you talk to 20 of them, even the ones at the beginning you thought were like whiz bang, you're going to realize, well, turns out most of them are actually friendly and seem to be professional, but some of them you can just tell, like they know, they're on their game, they're good. So spend the time doing the networking, meeting the people, making the phone calls. Then that will help you feel so much better when it comes to then declaring a market. I'm confident this property manager will manage my properties adequately. And I'm confident they have good recommendations for the people that they recommend to do repairs and to fix the places up if there's issues. And I'm confident that, God forbid, an eviction happens, we're going to get it done in a timely fashion. It's not going to be overly expensive and we'll get it handled. And having that confidence will erase, well, I won't erase it. It'll help ameliorate some of the fear and anxiety you're dealing with. It's never going to be completely gone. Obviously, I still sit here and go, God, I hope nobody like burns something down or something. You know, like it could happen. That's what insurance is for.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Okay.
those are, go ahead.
Yeah. So declare a market.
Yeah, declare a market, start working on building out the team, building out the network. Once you have declared that market and started working on the team, then from there, you actually have to do the work of studying the properties and figuring out, you know, okay, I need to know what bad, average, good, and great deals are. Okay. Because you're going to pull some of them up and they won't cash flow at all. You're like, how could they ask this much? Especially right now, it's actually very tricky with interest rates being so high. Deals that would have been a good deal 8 months ago, because interest rates have more than doubled, are now a bad deal. Like you can't do the deal. And so people are going to either have to drop their prices, and you're going to maybe make lowball offers and make 20 lowball offers to find a motivated seller. That's a little down the road, but you need to start comparing and contrasting deals so you can figure out, okay, I'm looking for a $65,000 house that rents for $1,000 a month. And that's what I look for in Gary, Indiana. I don't know what it'll be where you're at. Yeah. And then once you can find, you think, okay, I think I've established what an actual good deal is. Then you're going to chat with your property manager about them. What do you think of this property? I like it. Do you like this area? What do you think of this area? Because you don't know it. I mean, maybe you've been there, but right, you haven't been there. You don't know if that neighborhood's bad. You don't know if there's problems with it. You don't know if the city screwed up the sewer reinstallation on that entire block and you have to pay for $5,000 out of cash to fix it upon moving in. Like, they'll know that crap, them and your real estate agent. So there's a lot. I'm sorry. I'm just kind of just hitting you rapid fire.
I'm like, okay, bring it on, bring it on. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the basis of it, right?
Right.
To study it, put it on paper, do it. I think that's literally like the biggest problem. I mean, it's just like, I just need to start. I started with the knowledge absorption, so that's a piece of it, but and then doing the calls. I think that was kind of a surprise to me that I listened to on one of the videos. Couldn't tell you. I've listened to so many at this point. Of it's okay that they are the unknowns of, again, I don't know the property insurance. I don't know. Then once I choose that location of, okay, then pick up the phone and call 2 or 3 different insurance companies. And, I was like, oh, got it. I won't know all of that. So it's just, it's taking a minute to click, but it's getting there slowly but surely. I also discovered yesterday is 90 days to January 1st. So I was like, my 60 to 90 days, like,
there we go. There we go. Your goal could be buying your first property in January of 2023.
January of 2023. That's my goal.
Intimidating.
I know. And who knows what the market will look like, but that's okay. It's all right. There's always great deals out there.